Right, we're on.
Oh, we're
We're
on.
on.
Fantastic.
We've
Well,
got Dan.
well, thanks
This
for having me, Noel, first of all.
no, it's no trouble at all. It's we've been mad excited to have you on. It's really good. Obviously, myself and Dan met at a GB9 tournament in Red Hill, right? Red Hill, Spots and
Yeah.
Stripes, Nigel's
Spots and
club.
Stripes in
Yeah.
Red Hill. That's the one, yeah. Nigel's Spots and Stripes, as we call it.
What a great guy! Obviously, met Nigel for the first time too, which was great because a player that we support on the hub, Mary Talbot, plays out there as well. So no, it was good to go. What an amazing place!
Yeah, amazing place. I mean, Nigel's amazing. I mean, Mary's, by the way, just thought, put it out there. She's a hell of a player. She is really
Oh, I
good.
know it.
Saw her play alongside Joe Prince recently. So and I thought, wow, she's a hell of a player. Nigel, incredible guy, and all of his team, Michael Hope and his family, run such a good setup, and they're all players, and I think that makes a huge difference that they're really invested in the club.
Yeah, no, it's they're just. I mean, such an amazing, welcome as well. God, I mean, I'm just a coach. I'm no nobody really, but it was just like God, it was an amazing reception, and yeah, I had a great. I ended up spending 3 days there because I was after your tournament, I was coaching Mary the day after. So no, it was great. Yeah, no, good fun. So Dan, let's start with before we get on to all things GB9. Tell us about Dan as a player because I think like you're doing a great job of telling us how much you're not a great player, but in actual fact that's not quite true, is it? You can play, my friend, can't you?
Um, I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. I certainly don't do anything in tournaments. I'm pretty good at losing matches in tournaments. In terms of my playing ability, it's a weird one. I can actually play some fantastic shots. I know all the shots. I've got a lot of experience playing Q Sports for over 40 years. I've been playing Q Sports on and off as well. But it's just one of those weird things. I just have zero consistency, a lack of probably a lot of it's lack of self belief. I'm also really conscientious of my opponent. So I spend a lot of time just basically. I would never lose a game intentionally, but if I always kind of look at my opponent, and if I feel sorry for them a bit, then I kind of ease off. So I lack that ruthlessness as well.
Yeah,
So
too nice a guy.
uh, to be fair, I mean, I turned 50 back end of last year, and I kind of thought, well, do you know, it's probably more of a recent decision than last year. I thought, well, I'm really not going to do anything in the game. As much as I'd love to, as much I can produce, some fantastic shots. Whether it's my concentration skills, whether it's just my lack of bottle, I don't know what it is, but I want to be productive in the game, and it's not going to be as a player. So as a player, I enjoy myself, have some fun, play some small money games, with players roughly my standard. I'm
Yeah.
definitely getting better, which is nice, and I've seemed to have found in practice matches quite a high level of consistency for the first time in my life, which is amazing. So I'm going to keep plugging along and seeing what I can do, and hopefully cause the odd upset. I am known as the Soul Destroyer, um, which which so if you do get beaten by me, your soul genuinely is utterly crushed. Um, but for me, yeah, I don't harbour any ambitions really in the game as a player, but I can certainly see my worth as an organizer, and somebody who I've always had a philosophy in my life is that if I want to do something, then make a difference, and it's not to myself. Um, I'm bizarrely one of the quite an altruistic person. So I don't really care too much about myself. I've done a lot in my life, enjoyed my life, but I spend a lot of time making people happy, wanting to make people happy, and making a difference. So yeah, I've taken to organising things now.
So it would seem. You obviously you were involved in the earlier days of GB9, right?
No, not at all. So in terms of GB9, they've been going on since 2007. And during 2007, I mean, I wasn't even playing anything at the time. You know, I just moved up to Sheffield in 2007. So I was playing out of Riley's and Clapham, and playing, yeah, for having a lot of fun playing pool at the time, in Riley's and Clapham. But in 2007, due to some personal reasons, I moved up north, up to Sheffield. And for the next 9 years, I don't think I touched a cue. Um, and yeah, just basically got into other things. Just totally just didn't really care about the game. I didn't care enough about the game at the time. And I think when I moved back down to London, as a friend of mine who was playing in the local Battersea English Pool League, and he said to me, he goes, "Do you play pool?" And I said, "Well, I used to be fairly handy." Um, and so he said, "Well, can you fill in for me at some come to some pub and we'll play some Battersea League and District game, whatever it was." So I went down, played it, found the atmosphere quite odd because it was quite aggressive, more so than I'd expected. I didn't play particularly badly, but I hadn't played in ages. But you know, I played for him for a few matches, and then I met this Romanian guy called Cyprian Dandu, and he was playing against me, and he was in the opposition team. But the way he stood and everything, I just knew he wasn't an English pool player. And he just turned around and I says, "You all right?" And he says, "Yes, my name's Dan." And he goes, "I'm Sip." And he says, "Oh, I'm only filling in for my mate. I'm only just here just for today." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of filling in as well." And he says, "Well," he says, "you don't normally play this game, do you?" He said, "No." He says, "I play American pool. I play nine ball." And I went, "Oh, nine ball. Yeah, that's the game I used to play." And he goes, "Oh right, so you play nine ball?" He says, "Well, why don't we go for a game?" And I said, "Well, I haven't played in ages, so." Met him in Tooting about a couple of weeks later. He absolutely rinsed me because I didn't realise at the time that Sip was quite a regular on the Euro tour.
Oh,
Um,
right. Okay.
and he was basically practicing every day near professional level, and he was blindingly good. He was one of the best players I'd ever played against. So he rinsed me, and I just felt really, really gutted. I just thought, oh no, this isn't the game for me. Then about a year later, I think I moved off to Korea, after South Korea, because I was taking a break from work. I needed to get away. I'll be honest with you, I was suffering depression around that time, and actually got through that. And one of the things I wanted to do was actually get away from my life here in the UK on a temporary basis. So went to Korea. That's where my parents are from. So it's where my heritage is from. I don't really speak much Korean, so I thought, you know what, give it a go. Um, and then when I was out there, well, met my now wife, which was great. So it turned out pretty well. But then I used to hang around in Seoul with I met this like British guy called Stevie, and we went out drinking together. And he goes, "Do you play pool?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I used to." And he goes, "Oh, look, it's not a very good standard, but there's a pool league going on here because it's all arranged by the Americans who live out in Korea."
Oh, it's
And I
English pool. Sorry, American pool then.
American
Right?
pool, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no one had seen an English pool table in Korea.
Right. Yeah, yeah, of course
Um,
not. Yeah.
so he says, why don't you come down and play? And I said, yeah, go on then. So went down one of the local pubs, picked up one of the house cues, played a little bit, sort of did okay. And there's a load of like local Filipinos who are playing down there, and they're all a lot of them were very good, but they all said, "Look, you can play a bit. You can play a bit. Why didn't you join a team?" So recommended me a team, joined them, played every week. It was all like it's all eight ball, American eight ball, but I enjoyed playing it. It's mainly a lot of drinking and not much playing. But I started winning some games, and people started going, "Actually, you can play a bit." And I started rising up through the rankings in this particular league. And I just really grew. I started to really fall in love with the game. Really started to fall in love with the game, and then I was out in Korea for about 2.5 years. Um, I moved back to the UK, and I remembered, because there's this Romanian guy called Sip, and I wonder what he's up to. Is he still playing nine ball? So got in touch with him and said, "Are you doing anything with nine ball?" And he goes, "Yeah, I am actually. I'm playing out of Tooting still." And he says, "I've literally just started up some Monday night flyers." And it's only about like 10 people that turn up, but it's a little
Right.
tournament. Why don't you come down?
Yeah.
So I thought, got all excited, went down and played, and realised that they were all better than me. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I had the bug. I had the bug by this time, and I started thinking, okay, I really want to try and play more and more and more. And that was about, was it 2019? Yeah, about 2019. That was. COVID hit, which was obviously a massive, spanner in the works. But I kept in touch with Sip, played when I could, when we were allowed to, and Sip and his another guy called Andrew Fan, were working really, really hard to try and keep these Monday night flyers going, and they were moving up from 10 players to 12 players to 16 players, getting 20, and it's been going on ever since. And I've been helping them a lot, with whether it's finance or whether it's with helping organizing on the day. And we're now growing to the point where we can get, because we cap at 32 players, and we can honestly get in excess of 40 players sign up and be put on a reserve list every Monday out of Tooting, which is fantastic. The prizes are nothing. I mean, it's £10 entry, single limb, races to five, and to be honest with you, the money's probably what, 100 quid at best for the winner.
Okay.
But we introduced a ranking system, so you know where you are in the rankings. I think last year I finished 98th out of 130. So I was
Well,
happy to have broken in the top 100. But to be honest with you, it's not. What happened was is that Sip and Andrew were building a community in London, and they spent a lot of time um, persuading the owner, to invest in better equipment, because we were playing on these horrible sand tables, and I just can't stand them. Um, Good quality equipment means it's far more enjoyable if you're playing on nicer
yes.
tables.
Yeah.
And eventually, they actually got the owner to invest in diamond tables, the only ones in a club in the UK, which was unbelievable. It changed everything, and the community kept on growing. I think we've had, over the past, I think it is 4 years that I've been running the rankings. I think I worked out there's something like about 270 players who had played at any one time.
Right.
Um, So it's been a really, really big success, and everyone knows of these. We call it the MNT, the Monday night tournaments. And we've got all of our regulars who come down. Interestingly enough, the number one player is a guy called Ramesh Gokul, who is also topping the rankings in GB9 as well. But he's been great because he teaches people stuff, he coaches them, he helps them, he's always encouraging people to improve. So yeah, he's been top of the rankings pretty much this entire last 4 years, which has been great. So yeah, the Sip and Andrew really have really sparked a fire in me, and by helping them, I realised that yeah, I can probably be involved in pool, in the world of pool. Um, and then we got to the point, as I said, with GB9 falling down by the wayside, I thought I can't really let that happen.
Sorry, why did it decline in the first place? GB9.
GB9 was it's simple. In 2022, well, COVID had hit, so that took a lot of the wind out of its sails. And in 2022, the by that time the committee had pretty much disbanded, leaving one person in charge of GB9, which was a guy called Adam Stevens. And Adam, who is, yeah, he's brilliant. The guy is phenomenal in terms of his organizational skills, his knowledge, his know-how. And they're running the tournament out of a hotel in Telford. So in 2022, he did his best to put on a full tour again for 2022, but he was exhausted. Uh, running everything by himself must be exhausting. I can't imagine what it's like. Um, and to be honest with you, he was also expecting a child.
Right.
So if people weren't going to step forward and help him, he had no choice but to disband it effectively.
Okay.
So at the end of 2022, he made the announcement. That's it. If no one's going to step forward and take it over, then I effectively I quit. So 2023 happened. Nothing happened with GB9, and there's a few murmurings. Dean Sporton, who is currently on the GB9 committee, there were rumours that was trying to find a way of picking up the baton. Um, and so he was talking to hotels. He was trying to find ways of resurrecting GB9. He brought on board somebody called Luke Hart, who was also a player. Um, but they weren't. I don't think they were really getting that far. There's a lot of talk and there's a lot of good sort of intention. They weren't getting that far. So in 2000, I think it was the beginning of 2024, I contacted Dean and Luke and said, "Look, guys, look, if you need some help, come and talk to me. Not really, not really wanting to be that involved, but clearly you guys need a bit of help. So why don't we have a chat to see if we can move it further forward?" So in 2024, in January, we had a bit of a chat about what it could look like, GB9. Um, and then we got an offer from Emily Fraser at Matchroom
Right.
to put on a tournament parallel to the UK Open in 2024 up in Telford. So I thought, okay, well, let's just go for it. And to be honest with you, I was new into the world. I just went, yeah, let's just do it. Everybody said, yeah, let's do it. And so we just dredged out the tables again. I got them all reclothed, got loads of new equipment that I bought in just for that tournament.
You're funding all this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and I
Good.
just thought, yeah, let's do something. Let's try and put GB9 back on the map again. Let's see if we can do something. I then got lumbered with a large bill because
Yeah.
we were contracted to use Matchroom's riggers. So basically, they set up the rig for us and the room adjacent to the UK Open. And it's a great venue, honestly. And the venue we got for free, but we had to pay the bill to Trans World Sport, which was in excess of about £12,000, I think it was,
Wow. Wow.
just for the rigs, for the lighting, for the general setup. And it was like, right, okay. I didn't read the contract, did I? So I was like, okay, looks like I'm gonna have to take a hit on this, or I'm cancelling it. So made the decision. Look, gone a bit far now. Definitely not cancelling it. I'm going to have to take a hit on this. And we ran the UK Amateur Open alongside the UK Open, which was a lot of fun. But it was using the old GB9 equipment. So these are San Magno tables that were made for GB9 that had very large pockets that weren't in the best condition, but they still played. And when we reclothed them, they played fine, played quite well. Um, but the equipment wasn't great, but it was okay. The tournament went well, managed to pay out, got all the trophies done, and we thought, okay, what's next? So by this time, we'd been talking to a venue near Oxford called Bradmore Farm, And Luke had been talking to them and said, "Look, this is a great venue. I think it's ideal." I went to look at it and I thought, "Yeah, it's certainly the right size." But I looked at the amenities and I just went, "You're basically trapped. You're trapped in the middle of nowhere on this effectively like a rural shopping centre, which isn't really a good description because there's not much there. So you're effectively trapped in this place. No hotels to speak of nearby. Transport's too
Restaurant.
far."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this just doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that this is where GB9 could be. And then there's a lot of other discussions going on, and I just sort of thought, well, yeah, I'm not sure where GB9's going at the moment. And I started getting quite nervous about it. And by this time, Luke had decided he didn't want to continue. He'd partly fallen out of love with the game a bit for some reason as a player. And in terms of the decisions or the direction he wanted to take GB9, I thought he was trying to run before he could walk. Because I'm quite pragmatic and I just know that you've got to do things incrementally and slowly. So Luke kind of decided to step down. I was left myself and Dean, and we're thinking, well, how do we do this? To get a hotel, I'd spoken to the hotel at Telford that GB9 was at before.
Yeah.
They told me that they wanted £5,000 plus an extra £1,000 for setup day per event. And I thought,
Okay.
well, that just knocks out all my prize fund. I'm just going to have nothing left over, and it's not worth players entering. And then also on top of that, I would need people to set up the tables because you have to set them up each event. They said that storage wise, they said that you weren't allowed storage there anymore. Um, and I was a bit sort of flabbergasted, really. I was like, well, you gave GB9 a free venue hire, you gave them a free setup day, you did everything for them, but now you don't want us here. You just want us to charge us for it. So I said, okay, that's now out of the equation. We can't continue with that. That's no to the hotels. Are
So
there
we
any?
looking at any other hotels then, or we
Well,
just instantly in clubs then?
Well, the thing is, you see, is I spoke to a couple of other hotels and I said, look, is there any chance I can get some free venue hire and you'll get a load of players turn up and all wanting to drink. So
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
you'll make some money at the bar. And they all turned around and said, yeah, you must be joking. We're not taking that risk. So it's a flat no. So you know, even Telford, they charged me. They were offering me the best price at £6,000, including the setup day. But I said, no, I can't do that. So happened then, coincidentally, I then spoken to Nigel, and there are rumours that Nigel was taking over this club in Red Hill. Because prior to it being Spots and Stripes, it was known as Brooklyn, I think it was. Brooklyn, and I'll be honest with you, it was an absolute hole.
Really?
The
That's hard to
yeah.
imagine compared to how it is now.
Oh, it was a bizarre layout. It was pretty grotty. Every time I ate there, I was sat on the toilet an hour later. It was just horrible. But knowing that Nigel was going to take over Spots and Stripes, I thought, okay, this is actually really interesting. So I said to Nigel, "What's your intention with American Able?" And he says, "Well, I'm intending to get quite a number of tables in there." And I said, "So if I want to hold GB9 there, can I hold it there?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "Are you going to charge me?" He said, "No." But he said, "You need to get people drinking. You need to get people spending money at the bar." And I said, "That's fine. No problem. I'll do that." So that was great. I knew I had one venue secured. The next thing, though, I thought, well, GB9 Ball Tour, which is what it's always been called, should be a tour. So I'd spoken to Savannah up in Manchester, and JJ, who I've known for a couple of years, is a really nice guy, very helpful. He was telling me, yeah, I'd love to host GB9 up there. But unfortunately, I mean, I did a site visit up there. First of all, it is on an industrial estate. Hotels are about 20 minutes walk away. That didn't help. The club itself is okay. It could have worked, but unfortunately, to host GB9 would have required a lot of moving of tables around. Me having to then put a load of tables in. He would have to rewire the electrics on a temporary basis to then get the lights up.
Yeah.
And there's going to be cost involved for me to support him to do that, and I didn't think it was worth it. And I was a bit nervous about it. So we then decided, okay, fine, we're going to hold event one at Red Hill, and we'll then see what happens about going up to Manchester for event two. Um, it was interesting, really, because we'd obviously, as I said, no one really knows who I am, or should I say, people outside of London don't know who I am. So there's me putting on GB9 event one, um, and a lot of people going, well, I don't know who this Dan is. He's taken over the reins of GB9, and does this guy know what he's doing? So a lot of people are very, very skeptical, and I know that for a fact because they told me outright we're skeptical, and I said, look, I'm fine with it. But I said whether I get 5 runners or whether I get 60 runners or 96 runners, I don't care. I'm putting it on no matter what, and I'm going to just start making it happen. So by this time, Dean had brought on Andy Yates, who is also on the GB9 committee, who I have to say is he keeps me completely sane. He's one of the most reliable people. He is incredibly thick-skinned. He's got a fantastic sense of humour. He makes me laugh when I want to cry. Andy is, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an ex snooker referee. Um,
I think I can picture him, but yes, I
yeah,
think so. Yeah,
but he's an absolute stalwart of GB9 at the moment, and as I said, he provides all my sanity. And then he also then brought on Julian Roper to help out. So Julian is obviously one of the referees, but Julian also helps out in terms of decision making with GB9 committee as well. He's such a lovely lad, as Julian. And you may know who he is. I mean, most people see right over him because he's so small. But he
yes,
is
yes, yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's a lovely
I
guy.
had a chat with him actually
Yeah,
at that event. Yeah, yeah. No, we chatted for a bit. Yeah, lovely guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
lovely guy. And I say, Dean as well has got wealth of experience. He's very pragmatic. Always got a good positive opinion. So we formed a little committee, put on event one. Be honest with you, I didn't sleep for 2 nights before the event. I was so nervous.
really.
Um,
That's stressed out.
Yeah, it's really stressful, and I'd never put this on before. So, and obviously I'd never worked with Andy or Dean or Julian before, so I didn't really know how they were going to perform. So I was really nervous, didn't sleep. I remember, the night before, load of players had already turned up, and they were on the practice tables and already set everything out, and yeah, I was just so tired and exhausted already. But we got into the event, and I was just so happy to be able to put on the event. I think there were some only very minor things that went wrong, but people barely noticed. And people then turned around and said, "Yeah, do you know what? Actually, this was a really, really good event." I've had some people say to me, "You've retained the spirit of what GB9 was all about. You've retained its integrity. Um, you've really done everything for the players. You've done everything you could for the players." And I put a free. No, what was it? Oh, that was it. I gave everybody 3 free drinks tokens um, for the event because I wanted people to encourage them to go and spend them behind the bar.
Right.
So yeah, it comes out of my pocket, but at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that Nigel was happy. Wanted to make sure the players felt invested in and felt happy about that. And ultimately, yeah, small incentive because a lot of people spend a lot of money to come down to Red Hill.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, 3 free drinks. It's not a huge amount, but it's something. And a lot of players noticed it, and they went, "Yeah, it's a really nice touch. That really appreciate the fact that you're actually trying to do something for us, the players." So all in all, um, the feedback from event one was really good. But then at the end of the event, JJ from Savannah turned around and said, "Dan," he says, "I've got to be honest with you, the venue is so good here with the main arena, with all the tables, the
Yeah.
space." He said the local amenities as well around Red Hill. He said, in all
Yeah.
honesty, and he says, the issues, the technical issues that we will crop up at Savannah. He said, if you held all your events at Red Hill, he says, I don't think people will complain.
Yeah,
So,
even the Scottish contingent coming down for it,
well, they all said that Gatwick is so convenient.
yeah, yeah,
So I think by that time I put it to the committee. Funnily enough, the rest of the committee, they all live up north. Who's Wigan, Sheffield, Chesterfield. And for them, in Manchester would have been ideal. But we all reluctantly agreed that unfortunately we weren't going to pursue Savannah, and we're going to hold it in Red Hill because the venue is just so good. Um, and it's with regret I say that because I eventually harbour ambitions of moving GB9 around the country, but I need the clubs to be able to open up and support it or invest in better equipment because I can't do it without better equipment because players demand good quality tables, and the tables at Red Hill, they're pretty tight. They're not quite matchroom specification, but they're tighter pockets. The cloth's well looked after and well maintained. The tables are in good condition. They're leveled. The guy who does all that does a lot of work. They regularly recloth. You just don't get that at most clubs. Most clubs, the cloth is pretty worn. The rails might be dead,
yeah,
might not be level. So it just disappoints players because with Matchroom and with some of the Euro Tour things as well, people go and play in fantastic conditions. And if we're to purport to be the pinnacle of the nine ball game in the UK, then we have to put on the best conditions possible. And Red Hill really sort of kind of was ideal for that. So we moved into events 2, 3, and 4, to be honest, and we saw an increasing number of players, new players, returning players, join in and see what it's all about. And by event 4, and event 4 for me was so special. Um, we decided to induct or create a Hall of Fame for GB9, and for me it meant quite a lot to me, to be honest with you, because I wanted to give a nod to all the people who'd worked ever so hard since 2007 to actually create
yeah,
GB9.
yeah. That's
and
class.
and there's a gentleman called Lee Rigby who's the founder of GB9, and I'd heard a lot about him, and I just said, well, there's just no question that's the first guy we induct into the Hall of Fame. So I contacted Lee and I said, Lee, going to invite you down. I've got a hotel room for you. Love you to come down and basically be a guest of honor. Stick around, and we'll induct you into the Hall of Fame properly in front of everybody. Give you a nice little award. So we gave him actually quite a nice little trophy with Hall of Fame inductee number one. We've also gave him, actually, I've got to be honest with you, it's a beautiful bottle of wine as well. Really nice bottle of wine that he wanted. Um, and he was so pleasant because I just talked to him a lot throughout the weekend about what GB9 meant to him, what it represented. And what I got was validation from him because he stuck around and he saw what the atmosphere was like. And he said, wow, you really have actually retained the integrity of GB9 and you took it out of the hotels and you put it in a club, something he said that so many people was going to be skeptical about. But he says, you did it. You actually managed to do it. And he says, I'm impressed. And the other guest I had, who wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame, but will be, was Adam Stevens,
Right.
the person who was the last key holder to GB9 before I took
Yeah, yeah,
over.
yeah.
And I've been in touch with Adam. He's a cracking lad. Or really really enjoyed him. But I wanted to come down. I knew for a fact that with Lee being there, Adam knows Lee, and a lot of players know these guys. And when they turned up, both of them, it's the first event they've been to. A lot of players were over there talking to them, etc., engaging, sharing old jokes. And Adam really loved it. And Adam said, agreed. He agreed with Lee. He said, I'm not just saying it. He says, if there's something, I mean, Lee Rigby is one of those people, if he sees something he doesn't like, he'll tell you. Um, but he said, no, there's nothing I don't like about it. He said, Adam was the same. Adam was like, yeah, you've really done something that he didn't think was possible, especially to do in a club. Um, So yeah, I think that was really special to me, just to have that event where we managed to get the Hall of Fame inductee. We managed to get Adam down there. The players down there had a really, really good time. I think we managed to do some little minor tweaks over the events to try and get, to a good event.
Like that.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Evolving.
and now we are on the cusp of event one for 2026, which I'm unbelievably excited about, because we've made even more tweaks. And a lot of these little things that we change, they're only small things, but the idea is very simple. I talk to players. I try and speak to players on a regular basis to get their feedback, because when we say we're for the players, for the game, I really mean that. You know, it's I'm not I'm not, and some people have said to me, "Goes, oh, you run GB9, you're the owner of GB." No, I'm not. I says I'm a custodian.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm a custodian of GB9. It is my responsibility, to do the very best for the players. And the long term aim is to make it a sustainable, sort of event that doesn't need my finance, doesn't need my support. It just can actually manage itself. But for the
Kind
time
of
being,
perpetuates itself.
I
Yeah.
have to sort of be involved. So event one's on the horizon. It's
Uh,
amazing, actually. I've counted it up today. We've got, because I can see who's partially has started filling out the form. And obviously, I know for a fact we've got something like over 20 people already registered. But there's another 30 odd people who've started filling out the form already. Um, and, I'm very conscious that with January being a very tough month, financially for people, then, we've extended the early bird right through to the 2nd of February. So it's £140 to enter. And it is a guaranteed 4 matches you'll play, because there's the main event and then there's the challenger events, which will be
right.
split into 3 tiers: the pro, tier one, and tier two. And the thing that I'm quite excited about, because I have had a lot of discussions about it over the course of today to finalize a few things, is that the pro event, unlike event three and four, where we only went for the top 8 players, is now going to be extended to the top 16 players. But the big difference is that before, the pro event was actually an additional fee, to fund the prize fund, for GB9. But I'm not going to ask for any extra money. So everybody's £140 or £160. I'm not going to take any money away from any of the other prize funds, but the pro event is going to be the same prize fund as tier one, which I think is fantastic because it's only a 16-man event. So
Right.
there's a lot of big positives, that I'm really excited about. There's other things that I haven't quite yet finalised, so I'm not announcing. But it's constantly trying to find
Well,
improvements.
teasing it. No, it's good. And you need to watch for Mr. Ellis trying to enter as tier one instead of pro. That's the sort of thing he'll do. It's just that he is very underhand that way. But I have to say, Dan, honestly, that they haven't spent like a day and a half at GB9, and I'm relatively new to Q Sports, as you know, like compared to so many people in the industry, just 9, 10 years now. No, but obviously I've spent most of my time, WST and stuff, and various kind of pool comps and ultimate and IPA, etc. It's I was so impressed by how well it was run. And I see all different Q sports. Every event. That was my second event that day when I met you.
I remember
So
you saying, yeah.
but it was, and the feedback from other players as well. Speaking to them, Marcel as well. Was very very complimentary about the whole thing. It was so well run. It was so slick. It was so on time, and it was just really really impressive. I think you guys just done an amazing job. You really have.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, the player feedback has been fantastic, and
Yeah.
that's who we're there to please. We're there to please the players, and we always get constructive feedback as well, and we've listened to it, and we have had to make some minor tweaks. But I'm quite a perfectionist. So whether it's business or whether it's arranging holidays or stuff like that, I'll plan things down because I want things to run pretty much like clockwork. But it's also a testament to the team. I make no secret of it that I do all the back office stuff. So everything or most things in between events is down to me. And that's partly because I've got the project management skills, I've got the organizational skills, I've also got the drive and probably a bit of, I don't want to, sort of cast any dispersions on people's qualities, but, I've got a pretty good business head. So as a result of it, I can drive people and make things happen. And I just keep it all in spreadsheets, and I've got my checklist just to go through, and I can manage everything pretty easily now. But during the event, um, what Andy, Dean, and Julian does is remarkable. And I doff my cap to them. I basically just swan around, basically just chatting to players, making sure they're
Yeah,
happy, listening to their
I
feedback.
saw that. Yeah,
And that's kind of I feel was my job to do. When it comes to the actual organisation, whether it's scheduling or announcements or stuff like that, I try and stay away from it because you know I do a reasonable amount in between the events, and for me, the event I just kind of want to relax a bit, and just talk to players and just basically, yeah, just make players happy at the event, on a one-to-one basis, face to face, kind of like the party host kind of thing, and that's kind of what that's what I do. But in terms of what Andy, Dean, and Julian do is phenomenal, and it goes like clockwork because of those guys. And that's what I always say about the GB9 committee. We're an incredible team. And then we also have other people as well that I just want to quickly acknowledge. There's obviously Nigel,
good. Yeah, yeah,
Michael Hope, who's the manager, and his family who run the place. Um, their team is phenomenal. They're so smiley, they're so welcoming, they're so helpful.
yeah,
They're just an absolute dream to work with. Then you've got Sam Jones from TYP Live, who runs the streams. The quality of his streaming is
yeah,
just
yeah.
second to none in the industry.
It really
Considering the
is.
budget, the
Great guy,
budget.
Sam. Yeah,
We've got so little budget, and yet what he produces on what little budget we've got is phenomenal. Then you've got Ben Grady, who does a lot of the video work on social media and photos.
right.
Um, he does an amazing job of those videos, and that's because he actually works for Matchroom as well. So a lot of the Matchroom videos, and I think he does like some of the World Snooker Tour stuff as well. Um, we get the benefit of having his fantastic social media videos, which make a big difference. There's Scylla, who's come on recently as a helper, as a volunteer. She's not paid for it, but she does an amazing job helping the organisation. Just generally, just being just an amazing person, just running around like mad. There's also crikey Andrew Fan, who designs all the posters. He designed the logo for GB9. He's helped design loads of stuff for us. He does all the flyers and banners and all these things. And I just ask him, and he just does it, and he doesn't charge me for it. He's an absolute dream. So
And
there's
the
a number of
website
people.
is great too.
Yeah, the website though, that's the only thing. It's the only thing that, whilst it looks great,
It's fine. So it's
I
good.
don't have anybody at the moment who can upload new content on a regular basis. I don't know what WordPress does. I'm not an expert in that. And if there was somebody out there who wants to help us actually update content, because I'd love to change the website a bit, put up more photos, put up more videos, and also update with more news stories, then if they know how to use WordPress, then I'd happily bite their hand off and welcome them and to help us with keeping GB9 a website up to date. That's the only thing
Well,
that we're
there we
lacking.
go. Sure, somebody listening should be able to help you with that. That's
I
great.
hope so.
No, it'd be good to see. So, in terms of like obviously coming here, so venues. I mean, obviously, McGoldrick's springs to mind, right? Because I've always found, like, in Scotland, traveling up and down the country, and I don't know how many pool and snooker clubs have been in the UK. I don't know. I've not been in all of them for sure, but it can't be far off. But it's like, it's obviously in England, you understand, you go in, there's snooker tables, there's English 8 ball, you know, totally understandable, might be the occasional American table, but generally not very many. But in Scotland, it's weird. It's a little bit different. You know, the English and English tables are relatively rare sight. I mean, you do get them, obviously, but certainly American tables seem to be more popular up here in the clubs. It's a bit different, but you've been to McGoldrick's before, I take it.
Yeah, I think McGoldrick's undoubtedly is one of the best sort of
Amazing,
team sports bars.
stunning.
You know, it's phenomenal. I mean, um, I've been up there a couple of times. I love the venue. I just wish that they didn't have only six American tables, because if they had, 12 to 16 tables, it would be my dream come true. And I'd heard rumours that they were trying to obtain the lease for the upstairs,
Yes, me
but
too. I heard that.
unfortunately it fell through and it's not going to happen, which
Oh,
is a
is it?
real shame. Because to be honest with you, if they were, then I'd be on my hands and knees begging them to let GB9
Yeah,
have a stop up there. But in all honesty, yeah, what McGoldrick's has done for American pool up in Scotland is phenomenal.
yeah,
Because you can see the contingent that come down from Scotland, and they're a really strong contingent, quality wise, but not just quality wise. Just from an understanding of the community and the numbers, they come down and they say no Scotland, no party. The Scottish lads come down. They're drinking the bar dry, that kind of thing. They're cracking lads. Honestly, they're really, really, really nice lads. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to lie about it. I have to switch on my hearing, my concentration for my hearing, that
yeah,
extra 10%, because most of them have got pretty thick Glaswegian or Edinburgh,
yeah,
'cause, but
yeah.
no, to be fair, I'm supporting what they do as well, because one of the things that GB9's doing in 2026 is that we're supporting a select number of regional tours. So what we're doing is that we're asking them to have rankings, and we're going to offer them limited. So for their top ranked players, we're going to offer them a full tour card for 2027. So effectively, that means their top player gets free entry into all the GB9 events in 2027. And then we've are going to offer one extra space for them, but not to go to an elite player, but to try and include some of their lower ranked players, because
Right.
GB9 is about inclusion. It is about people who love the game, not just being good at the game, but actually GB9 is about, it's for the players who actually love the game. So you can. It's like myself. I'm not that good. I'm not going to do much, but I love the game. So, I'd be gutted if I couldn't play GB9.
No, so do you think, like, I mean, obviously, like, is this what you keep to your chest? Can you not release it here? What a great opportunity for you. Is there not, like, other venues coming in 26?
Yeah, no, venue wise, no. I'll be honest. I just can't find the right venue. I mean, I would love the Northern Snooker Centre up in Leeds to try and invest in better equipment. But the quality of the tables up at Leeds, they're Sams. They're not in great condition, and that's a real shame. And it's a venue that could hold 16 tables, frankly.
Yeah,
Um, and also the amenities are pretty good around there as well.
definitely.
If McGoldrick's, were to have 16 tables or even 14 tables, then as I said, I'd be begging them to host us. So unfortunately, no, it's at Red Hill for the foreseeable. And a lot of people have asked me, said, well, what about taking it back to a hotel? Well, the costs aren't viable, number one, and if they were viable, we'd be playing on the old San Magnos, and the old San Magnos are just no match for what is out there now in all the top tournaments. Whether the Diamonds or Rassons or
Yeah,
the Predator series. They're much higher quality tables with tighter pockets, and it would be quite discouraging for the better players. When they'd have to go on poor equipment, because that's not really a test. as to see who's the best, really, because even I can pot balls on the San Magnos, and that's saying
I bet
something.
I
So
could.
exactly, there you go. So I bet get you into a GB9 event. But yeah, in all honesty, so staying at Red Hill for the foreseeable. But in terms of what initiatives have we got going on, well, as I said, changing the pro event, I think it's a big thing. It's much bigger than it sounds, because it aligns the tiers a bit better. So there's more players who could win tier one now
Yeah,
than
yeah,
before. While you push some of the better players towards the pro event. Um, on top of that as well, we've also I've had a really really good chat with Elliot Sanderson.
yeah. Nice guy.
Elliot,
I know it went well. Yeah,
yeah, so obviously he's got a lot to do with McGoldricks, and
yeah,
because he's very close with Paul Corrigan, the owner,
yeah,
and but Elliot's there all the time, and Elliot's been really good. He's not actually entered a GB9 event yet, and much to his regret as well as mine, because he's a very good player, but. Elliot's been very supportive, and he's always been very supportive of what GB9's about. And I think as he's gotten to see what I've done, he's kind of thought, okay, this Dan is, Dan's actually sort of, got the integrity behind, his intentions. And I contacted him recently and had a bit of a chat with him about a potential possibility of running a Moscone style competition up at McGoldrick's, that would basically utilize the GB9 rankings. All right, and then you'd have an invite to then participate in a team event, because in English 8 ball there's a lot of team events, and yet in American 9 ball in the UK I don't see any team events at all. And I think
oh,
team events are really exciting.
yeah,
So I asked him what he thought about it, and he said thought it'd be a great idea. Um, I said, if we were to hold it up in McGoldrick first, I said that would be amazing, because the Scottish contingent are going to create much more of an atmosphere down in Red Hill, and then it would be up to us to put on the production to be able to demonstrate that, so that there's a good atmosphere. Get a lot of people up there. Get a team from England to play a team up in Scotland. But I think what we would probably do is call it England versus the rest of the UK, because obviously we don't want to forget that there are other players outside of Scotland.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, the Welsh contingent has got a couple of very, very, very strong players, as we know.
yeah.
Um, and I think I've put it out there to a couple of players, and I said, look, what's your thinking on it? Um, and Elliot actually gave me some really good advice. He turned around and he said, well, get players who want to play. They don't want to be paid; they just want to play. All right, because it will matter to them, and they're passionate about the game. And he says, if you do it as invitational, you run down the rankings, and if their first question is, how much do I get paid? Drop them, forget it,
Yeah,
because they're not
yeah,
going to bring anything to the party.
right.
Um, and the few players I've spoken to have turned around and said, yeah, not bothered about money. Money's not important. If I can find a sponsor, to pay for travel costs, and so that people don't lose money, then as long as there's a nice trophy that they can rub in, the Scottish lads' faces, or vice versa, uh, then people will be playing for pride. And of course, the very first Moscone Cup was played between amateurs.
Right.
So
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Right, right.
yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and so for me, it's a case of what Elliot turned around. He says, Dan, if you went out there and found sponsors, or invested money into this most amazing thing, and put out this massive prize money, he said you'd be setting the bar too high, too early. He says, if you build it, it'll grow. It'll grow, because you're running GB9. You know what the players' feelings are. You know who the mercenaries are, and you know who the ones
yeah.
who would play for pride. And
So,
you could create. Sorry, go ahead.
because I've just had this thought. Hang on. So obviously, like I know Elliot, great guy. Elliot would be playing for the English team.
Ah, you see, this is the thing. Well, this is some of the details
That
we've
could be
not quite.
problematic for him.
Well, interestingly enough, actually, we've not gone through the details of it, but we were thinking, do you play effectively, if you are? okay, we don't have any affiliation, but if you're effectively registered or affiliated to a club in England, then that makes you represent England, you know. Or do we do it by your country of birth? But then, of course, as you know, there's so many, especially in London, there's a lot of non-English players who are playing in England very, very regularly and would want to represent England. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, how would we do that? So, when we come down to it, we'll make it fair. Elliot, though, even said himself, he says, I wouldn't qualify because he says, I'm not joined a GB9 yet. So he says, if you can do it off the rankings, you know, I wouldn't qualify. But he says, I want to support you. And that's the nice thing I like about Elliot. He knows that he's not even going to be a player, but he would still want to support an event
He's,
like this.
he's
Um, so
yeah, no,
I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky that within our community there are some really fantastic people. So for me, it's a case of I'm trying to work out a few things. I don't know whether it'll happen this year because there's a lot going on. I still need to get right with GB9, and I need to work out dates. I need to have a quick discussion. I'll know by the end of February whether I can do it this year or not. And if I can do it this year, the key thing is making a fantastic production that looks good on stream, that people can watch and actually tune in and go, "Oh my god, there is going to be fireworks!" Because I think it, and especially holding up in McGoldricks. And honestly, I will be encouraging every single balmy Scottish person to come down and give the Team England an absolute licking. And because you know what the interesting thing is, when you speak to players, they go, I want to play in an environment like that. I want to have a bunch of, mad Scottish bastards all screaming at me, hoping I fail. Um, and if I was to hold it in England, and I'm no word of a lie, if I was to hold it in Red Hill as the first event, it would be quiet. It'd be like a library. I just know what the crowd are like down here. So hold it up in Scotland where they're balmy, they're going to give a load of banter and they'd be respectful. I know for a fact they'd be respectful, but it'd be really good banter. The next time we hold it down south, we'd have to reverse it, and all the people down here be motivated knowing that Team England got a kicking. So, for me, it's a case of, yeah, I'd love to be able to try and work towards putting that on because I think it's a really exciting initiative. And eventually, I really want to then try and start encouraging players to become an unofficial affiliate to a club, because if they become an unofficial affiliate to a club, potentially we can put on club competitions, and actually have inter-club competitions. Again, none of this happens without sponsors, because finance, that's what makes these things happen. So, for me, my one of my biggest primary aims is to find sponsors. Now, I make no secret of it. I have been in discussions with Toyota Materials Handling and Equipment, and also I've been talking to HSBC as well. Um, Hand on heart, I thought everything was going really, really well back in the last year, but then looked at our management accounts because I know these companies through my business, and my management accounts were showing we're going to make some losses. So HSBC are not very happy with me for making some losses, and as a result of it, I'm thinking I'm going to back away from HSBC for 6 months before I reapproach them,
right.
because hopefully I'll be making profit in 6 months and they'll be less tetchy. Similarly with Toyota, a bizarre thing happened. I pretty much agreed an agreement in principle with the local, with the UK managing director. Then we then have now, unfortunately, with Toyota, gotten into a bit of a legal argument, because they delivered some equipment that we'd ordered, but then cancelled in writing, and they've got the raging arsehole about it. And we've said, but we told you in writing that we'd cancelled the order within the time limits, and it's £100,000 piece of equipment that Toyota are now lumbered with, and that was made bespoke for my company. So they're not very happy at all with
Oh,
me. So the chances of me getting that £10,000 out of Toyota now are pretty remote, because their MD is not very happy with me,
right.
and I'm not very happy with them because I said I've got the evidence. We cancelled it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
guys should have stopped, and
Cool,
that's not my
Jim.
fault. So. So, with all the best intentions of the world, I was hoping by January of this year to have secured approximately 40 to 60,000 pounds worth of sponsorship to invest into GB9.
That'd be
Um,
incredible.
it would be incredible, but unfortunately, that hasn't materialised. So I think I'm going to have to put that on the back burners for another 6 to 12 months. Find other ways of raising sponsorship, because the idea was is to go to companies that I was friendly with that had some money. But as I said, give me about another 6 to 12 months. I'll continue working on it, because that will help fund initiatives. That will help fund the growth of the game within the country. Because England and well, the UK doesn't have that many good quality American tables. When you compare it to English pool tables, don't have that many good clubs. They don't have that much good equipment, etc. And to be fair, club owners make money through people coming in through the door and drinking, and I get it. I completely get it. I don't blame them. That's one of the reasons why I'm opening up my own club. Hopefully, and it's been a long time coming, but by May, if everything goes according to plan, I'll have my own little private members club that will have 6 diamond tables in. That'll be very exclusive for players who take the game seriously only.
Very
Now,
cool. In London.
yeah, it'll be in London, yeah, because it's got to be close to me. And you know, with it's only going to be 6 tables, but I'll maintain the equipment perfectly well. Not just that. Um, of course, there's a community in London, and I know quite a few of them would be interested in joining up and playing there fairly regularly, which is great. But for me, it's also about coaching and teaching new players to get into the game in an environment that isn't a drinker's environment. It is
Yeah.
a quiet place to go and learn the game, get serious about it. And the idea is to start trying to find and get new people playing the game on a regular basis. So, you know, people do who disrespect the game, people who just want to come in and get drunk and think it's just a night out after the office, forget it. They're not even going to come in through the doors. This is it's a little bit like some of the clubs I see out in Korea. You go in there, there's no blaring music. There's just people who want to play pool and take it seriously. And even if they're not that good, but they'll respect the game and then they get better at it. Um, and the little pool communities that crop up in different parts of the cities around Korea are fantastic, and it creates a community. And I've learned a lot from what Cyprian and Andrew have done in Tooting. I've learned a lot, obviously, through GB9. It's build the community. So put something out there, market it well, you know, teach people, show them it's a welcoming sport. And I want to run kiddie sort of coaching clinics. My daughter, who's 5 years old, has expressed an interest in learning the game. So, maybe I'll turn her
Well,
into a world
that's great.
champion. Um, but
Why not?
there's loads of local people in my area who've heard about the fact that I could be opening up a pool club, and they've all sat there and been asking me questions about it. And I said, "Well, do you play pool?" And they said, "No, but I want to learn how to do it." Um, and I know what they're like. These are the kind of people who would come in daily to practice and get good at it because, they're interested in the game. But you can't go into a bar, you can't go into most pool clubs and learn the game there because there isn't the facilities to do so. There aren't the coaches to do so. There aren't, the right atmosphere to do so. But at my place, there will be. There certainly will be. So yeah, the idea is
That's,
to grow the game.
it's so good. Like it's so important. Like the juniors kind of coming through. Like obviously other sports I work in, like in golf. There's the programs involved for juniors are just fast and brilliant, and by some of the world's best coaches too.
Yeah,
But
well, one of the things I've been looking at is number one, the equipment. Number two, the house cues I'll be having. Because I know one of the expensive things about playing American pool is the fact that it's a jump cue, it's a break cue, it's a playing cue. Um, People have got multiple, so it becomes expensive. So for a lot of players, for a lot of the newer players, I'm going to have. I've been telling this to a lot of people recently, actually. I've got house brake cues, and I've managed to obtain BK Rush house brake cues. Um, I call them house brake cues because they'll be proper BK Rush brake cues, but they'll be owned by the club that anybody can use at any time. And that's like £900 worth of cue that people will be able to just borrow anytime they want to brake with. The house cues I've got a really good relationship with a company called Viking out in America.
Right.
There's a Q dealer out there called Johnny Cisneros who works for them. So through various connections, I've managed to get through to this guy. He's got some fantastic house cues. They're going to cost me about, 150 to £200 a pop. But I'm going to have them out there so that people can utilize them within the club, and they'll play really nicely. And I've even had a guy from London go to America, and when he's over there, he met up with them, and then he said, "Yeah, let me test hits a few of them." And he said, "Yeah, Dan, these are really good. They play like normal cues." So it's going to be a way to get people in, and then obviously, then if I can then sell some good quality but fairly cheap cues, then hopefully we'll get people into the game. And then hopefully that's the way we'll start finding new talent out there, really.
Which is just, and that's like what you're doing there is going to manifest itself and show up, years and years down the line. Dan, I can't, I'm struggling to think of somebody in the Q sports world that's doing more, for their sport, but it's just absolutely brilliant, and you're giving back so much of what the sport's giving you, and fair play, mate. Mate,
Cheers.
we're going to have to call it because to me, I want to get you back on again soon because there's so much more to go through. I've got tons of notes here what to speak to you about Emily and Matchroom and all that, but God, we haven't even touched that. I'll be here all night. But no, amazing, Dan, absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming on. It's like
Oh, no,
really, really
thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having to put up with me just literally listening. So you might have guessed I like the sound of my own voice, so I can ramble on a bit. But
oh no, it's good. Like everybody watch, they know about me, right? We're here, but when about you? It's no problem, So it's about you. So no, it's absolutely fine. But no, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it.
thank you so much. No, I really appreciate it, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, mate.